Working on the Pontiac engine again. Going to try to get the correct color on the engine. This turns out to be a late 73 and 74 paint. And my cars are early 73 production and it's supposed to have the lighter blue paint. I'm going to take a chance here and just scuff up this blue paint and see if the new blue paint sticks. Say goodbye to World War II German blue and hello to 71 to 73 Pontiac blue. There it is in the new blue. We'll let that dry, see what it looks like. I'm going to pray that a chemical reaction doesn't happen on this. I'm onto this intake now, got to get it painted up. I wire wheeled it and pressure washed it. It came pretty clean. I started trying to take this off and these bolts felt like they're going to snap. And I didn't want to open that can of worms right now, so I just left it. The car's fitted with an electric choke right now anyway. So taking a look at this EGR system, blew air through the crossover port that connects the 4 inside cylinder exhaust ports, and it came out here and then blowing air in here. It appears to come into your intake track. Needless to say, I won't be using that. I'm going to put the valve back on just for looks. I had to take a die grinder to the inside of this, get all the barnacles out. It was ridiculous. I got an EMP Stewart thermostat, didn't want to cheap out there. It's a high flow type to match the water pump. This whole body comes down. Unlike one of these where just the center opens up. I'm going to tap through there and just getting a ton of crap out of there, silicone and whatnot. There's some slight imperfections here. I think I'll use a little RTV on sealing this up. I did spend some time trying to get all the barnacles out of the inside of this intake, but without blasting it, it's kind of a fruitless effort. Hopefully that seals up. I spent a little time getting that clean. I'll blow it out one last time, mask it off, and get it in some primer. I think I am going to primer and paint the bottom of this too. Now to give it a wipe down and try to get some of this powdery rust off, and then prime it. The majority of the powdery rust wiped right off of it. It is what it is. I'm going to go for it. It'll be interesting to see if this turns out a slightly different shade than the rest of the engine because it doesn't have that dark blue underneath it. I left all the casting flash on the intake as well. I feel like I'm just preserving this car for the next guy, but it's the name of the game. Hopefully he's a purist. There's a whole lot of this going on. Trying to get all the grease off this original hardware. I don't have all the original washers, but this is what I'm going to put on it for now. There's just a ton of crap up in these pulleys. Pretty much anytime I work in a car like this, anything that comes off of it gets painted before it goes back on. I'm using a self-etching primer on these pieces. This is going to be the painted black pile. Got one side of the pulleys in black. These pieces are done both sides. It's the next day. Got my new grommet here with the PCV. Looking forward to getting this engine back together. Cleaning the paint off, fitting the gaskets, getting ready to put the intake back on. I'm looking at this Felpro gasket, and obviously this is for a different vintage motor. This little gap here would clearly cause an exhaust leak. Mr. Gasket to the rescue. This one has that exhaust crossover block-off plate. Like I said, I wanted to fill the heads with aluminum and block that whole passage, but heads didn't come off, so it didn't happen. Should work. Do a little more cleanup and get this on there. I don't have any instructions for those gaskets, so I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to put a little bit of high temp RTV in the back of these plates. I think I'll do a little blue RTV around these ports and just do the spray tack sealant on the rest. Just for a little safe measure up, I have a little bit of blue RTV on this front rubber washer that seals the timing chain cover. I got all my intake bolts started there. I'm going to toss this guy in here and draw this intake up to the timing chain cover before I crank any of those down. I'm going to start on the inside here and work my way outward in a crisscross pattern, torquing these all to spec. I looked around for a couple minutes on the internet and didn't find a sequence pattern on it. The manifold's all torqued to spec now. I was having a heck of a time figuring out where all these studs go. I know that these two go to an AC bracket. These are actually on backwards. I put them on how I got the car, but then I moved the stud from the back to the front because I believe a alternator bracket is supposed to go on here. Now, 4 stud I just threw in the back in case it's for the coil. I couldn't really figure out where that one went. I think I'm going to take a risk here and try and touch up where I cleaned it up for those intake gaskets and go over the bolts where the wrench was on them and then get it in the back here a little bit. Trying to get the perfect paint job. And with my luck, it'll lift. Here it is all touched up, looking pretty good. We're going to work on the car a little bit now.
Well, this would be the time to do it. The engine's out. And if we just pressure wash it and with that foamy engine bright, it'll make the engine bay look clean. At a later, we're not going to paint it. Plans are for later on for this same engine that's just worked on to be coming out. And all this whole clip will come off. The front clip will come off. New bushings and all that, but that'll be in the winter time. So right now it's just going to be a pressure wash and clean.
Here's my AC compressor. It's missing a bracket coming off the front of it. I think it's missing one coming off the back as well. We're missing an alternator bracket. This was all realized when I was looking at these studs that go on this engine.
If anybody's got comments that's been working on, there's some guys that that's all they work on is these types of cars. They probably know them like the back of their hand and they'll go, correct, you're missing a support bracket in the back or whatever. So if you got ideas, it would be appreciated if you'd pass them on. See this, when we're talking about the bearing, we got this, that we're gonna have to take the column out and check that. We might be missing a bearing at the end. And this, I had a car back in the 70s, you know, I still got it, but it connects, even though I have a floor shifter, there's linkage that goes down and off the tranny, there's a slot, and then there's this 90-degree bracket that goes in there. So it's like a steering column and the shifter lock, you know, when you turn the key off, I don't think he's got that connected. Yeah, all these cars, you know, there were so many hundreds of thousands of these things made that at one time it probably got run down to a dilapidated state and people took stuff off of it in a junkyard, then all of a sudden somebody saw it and goes, hey, I'm going to buy this thing and fix it up and we can sell it. And they aren't going to go through the hassle of putting all the parts back on that are, you know, kind of useless. There's safety features, but some guys like to be able to shut the car off and while they're still moving, be able to turn it back on. Or if you're on a hill or whatever, you don't want to have to put it in park to start it. You could, you know, still be moving and restart it. Some people think safety and the emission control stuff wasn't that important. You know, a lot of stuff that got ripped off. When the air conditioning quit working, people just took that off and made the car lighter. And now that you're trying to get something back to being like it just came off the assembly line, those parts might be hard to find.
This will get a lot of the oil that sprayed underneath there from that trip.
You clean your floor too.
You can see how much it needs a touch-up now, but it's going to have to wait till the big paint job.